what you leave is what you've done and the impact you've had. And it may sound cliche, but it is true for me. A revenue number, it's not a goal. Employ as many people as we can, rehabilitate as many people as we can, inspire the middle class again, remind people why we had such a strong American middle class, and that factories were the melting pot where we came together and unified around a common goal and values, and just remind people like why we exist. I think that's really important for the next phase of our country. I feel like if we lose that, if we just become a service-based nation of consumers, you end up stripping the soul out of this exercise, this 250-year-old thing we call the American dream.
My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wolfe Untamed. Today's guest is Pete Roberts. He's the CEO and founder of Origin and Jocko Fuel. And today we're going to talk about all things business and all the high risks that he took to build these two companies. And he's doing it all while being American made and built in America, manufactured in America. Check it out. Hope you enjoy it. Well, Pete, man, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy running two major companies. Let's just start from the beginning, because I want to talk I want to talk about you. So where did you grow up? And then we'll just start there. Let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I mean, I spent the first 8 years of my life. I'm a masshole, originally born in Gloucester, Massachusetts, but a North Shore kid. And my parents scooped myself and my three siblings up when I was 8, and they went to the farthest place north they could find in the woods of Maine. It was the last place with all the amenities. After you leave the place where I live, you hit the Great North Woods, and 3 hours later you hit Montreal. So they were moved by spiritual, biblical, saying move to the mountains. And my parents were very, very religious, and so that's what they did. They just moved us 4 kids out in the middle of nowhere. And that's where I grew up, out in the middle of nowhere in Maine, in a little town with about 700 people. The classic story, down a long dirt road in an old kind of rundown farmhouse. It was only heated by wood heat, so no television except for the rabbit ears, 2 channels, and that was it. That's how and where I grew up, and I still live only a couple miles from where I grew up.
And it's funny because when you were a kid, you were probably like, man, this kind of sucks. Like I wish we had all the amenities that everybody else has, wish we had stuff and, just make it, life was a little easier. But then whenever you're an adult, you actually appreciate that lifestyle.
I definitely do. I appreciated the way I grew up, even though we didn't have a whole lot, and ended up being raised by my mom, and she was on welfare at times. And so it was hard. I was one of those blue token kids. You go into the, to get your lunch at the school, and you give the blue token to get your food.
Yep. So was I.
Yeah. So, that drove me to not want to live that type of life, or it was real motivational for me. I was loved. I had a great childhood. I had incredible friends, and the world was my oyster, kind of out of like Stand By Me or The Goonies, so
yeah.
That's the type of childhood I had. So it was great. But yeah, it was tough.
Yeah. Did you pick up any hunting and fishing when you were, you had to probably, right?
Yeah. I got my first 30-30 when I was 12, I think. Of course, that it's kind of a way of life here. I wasn't a big hunter growing up. But I always, we always had, friends that hunted, and would, when I was 16, my wife, Amanda, right now, we started dating when we were 16. I spent most of the time at her house. So I always hunted with her dad and her brother. And, my job when we're harvesting animals is to cook the food and eat the food. It wasn't like hunting the way I grew up wasn't like trophy hunting. It was like literally
meat hunting.
Yeah, it's hunting for meat. So I did a lot of duck hunting, more in my 20s, when I was growing up, I was all into sports, so I didn't have time to like. I wasn't interested in hunting, but like my son was super into it growing up. Still is turkey hunting, deer hunting, waterfowl, upland bird hunting, and then he also ran a trap line when he was like 12 or 13. He
That's
ran a
cool.
trap line outside the house and he trapped beaver and everything. So never hunted outside of Maine, and I haven't like since I started Origin. I gave up a couple of things. One was getting out in the woods with a family and hunting, and the other one was competing in jujitsu. I was a competitor. I traveled all over the place competing, and I gave those two things up to focus on business. A couple of sacrifices, but still to this day, everyone knows I love wild game. So my brother-in-law dropped off the heart of his deer, 2 weeks ago. Sliced that thing up with eggs in the morning, and I'm always getting meat from different sources, but I'm just not out there like getting it done with them.
Well, it takes a lot of time to do.
It does.
It's a time sucker, and it takes away from your family and stuff. It's just it takes time because you don't just walk out in the woods and shoot something. Like that's just not how it
No,
works.
exactly.
You got to put the
Exactly.
time in and figure them out, and then you finally find them, and then it still might not work out. So,
Yeah.
so did you play? You played football, lacrosse? Did you wrestle?
Basketball. Yeah.
Basketball.
Wrestled up until eighth grade, and then at 6'3" and able to dunk a basketball in eighth grade, it was my natural transition from wrestling to basketball. And yeah, and I was a football player, got recruited for football, played one double A. My passion though was lacrosse. Uh, and yeah, I dropped out of college though to start my first company. So I didn't finish my college career or my football career in college. But I love sports, still do. My kids are athletes, and I think athletics for me was a metaphor for life. It was the place I learned how to like listen to coaches, whether you like them or not,
Hmm.
how to work with people from different backgrounds, how to work within teams, and I just think sports is one of the most important things that we have to set us up to be successful in life. Just you deal with so much, and as you know, you deal with so much in athletics.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have to deal with so many different personalities.
Yeah,
It's everybody. Especially when you get to like the collegiate level, then even more so like in the NFL. You just have people from every single background, every
yeah,
race, every color,
yep.
every religion. And we all have one common goal, and it shows. Like that's why when they brought all that racism stuff up in the NFL, it's like it doesn't really exist in here, man. Like we don't care about any of that. All we care about is winning football games.
It was being projected.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they projected it onto us for sure. And it ripped locker rooms apart and it destroyed teams. It was, it was stupid. It was unnecessary.
Yeah.
But so what, your sophomore year, you went 2 years and then said, you know what, I'm done with this. And what was your first company?
So my first company I started out of my college apartment, and it was a little media company where I was on the cutting edge of kind of like obviously the internet hit. And I tell people it hit in 97. Like, what do you mean the internet hit in 97? I was like, legit 1997 is when like the internet turned on for the masses.
Yeah.
And then web development between 97 and 99 really exploded. And so I was in art school, traditional, like I was like sculpture major. And then I discovered new media, and it was still being defined at the time. But in my college program, there was like a business that was inside of the college, and I started working for that business. And that's where I learned about new media and this new technological breakthrough, and learned about animation and website development. And I went from there right into working for an ad agency, and I actually launched their web department for them. I was like this young 19-year-old kid who's like launching and running this website department. And so then after a stint there, I started my own company, moved back home, and had a new media company, and we did some incredible stuff. We built these like incredible systems for Quicksilver, Dina Star, the surf ski company, and all sorts of hunting and fishing companies. We built extreme dimension wildlife calls back in the early 2000s. It was the first digital wildlife call. Did all the marketing and branding for Beagleware, the big Vermont. They were a manufacturer of wool, camouflage wool clothing, Beagleware. They were really well known back in the early 2000s. So I was heavily in the hunt, fish, kind of brand building, back then. So yeah, and then the recession hit, and I was a young entrepreneur, and I didn't know how to pivot my business at the time, and lost everything. Sold off everything I owned to try to raise capital, except for my little timber frame cabin in the woods here, where my wife and I lived with two young kids, and decided I needed to figure out a way to course correct.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where Origin was born.
So 2008, the recession hits,
Yeah.
and it stung you.
Yeah, that's definitely an understatement.
Yeah.
We had built this business, like I said, out of my college apartment, and we had a bunch of young guns we hired, uh, and it was, I think it was like 60% of our business we lost almost overnight.
Oh,
Yeah, and instead of like cutting anybody loose, I went to the bank and I got a $20,000 line of credit, and it's crazy because my current line of credit is literally like 1,000 times bigger than that now, right? But that
yeah.
$20,000 line of credit, that could have been $20 million back then,
Yeah.
in relationship to where we were in our life and business. And I was paying their salaries out of this line of credit, and I was having them work on in-house projects, trying to keep them all employed. And one day there was kind of like a coup and a walkout. They tried to almost like take over the company and tell me I wasn't doing a good job, but they didn't have any visibility into what was going on. It's probably a mistake on my part to not give them visibility that, hey, the business isn't doing good. We lost 60% of our business. That's why you guys are working on in-house projects, is so I can keep you employed and keep you paid. I hadn't shared that with them. So it was a young entrepreneurial mistake. And it backfired on me. They ended up, like I said, walking out and telling me like, hey, we'll be back Monday to discuss this. And I met them at the door Monday morning with all their shit scraped into industrial sized trash bags, and told them to pound sand and bye. So I,
Wow.
I, 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 at that point, it was like, okay, I will never do anything in life where the world economy is going to have an impact on what I do. I got to be in control of a way of my destiny. I got to find a way to build something that will transcend the next recession, um, and something bigger than me. And so I took all those lessons as a young entrepreneur in my early 20s. And dude, and I make tuition payments every day, don't get me wrong. But and I don't feel like I really got my brain till I was 40, and that was 5 years ago. So yeah, I took a lot of those lessons into the next business, starting Origin. I was like, I need to build something physical, tangible, meaningful. And I went back to kind of my working with my hands, as an artist, as a sculptor, and that I need to build physical product. And so that's where Origin started, was literally in the basement of my house, trying to figure out what was next in life. And jujitsu was my passion, and I saw an opportunity in jujitsu, to change the uniform, the gi. We call it a gi, which is the thing you train in. Um, and I just ran with it head first, arms tucked, with no real plan, just wanting to change my station in life in a meaningful way, and not leave it in the hands of some people in politics, and
Right.
that are making shitty decisions for America.
And so you made the decision. I want to make. So you're making. I know jujitsu. I do jujitsu as well.
Nice.
And I haven't started wearing a gi. I have an Origin gi. I just haven't found the right gym to start using a gi in yet. Cause
Are
I
you
end up,
training no-gi right now?
yeah, no gi right now. And what happens is I end up with a bunch of fighters. I end up training with heavyweights, and
Sure.
those guys are like training for fights. So I need to find a gym where I can go do traditional jujitsu, like traditional Brazilian gi jujitsu, because I'm really interested in it.
It's great.
The problem is you go in there and you go into these gyms and it's like, oh, this is the big NFL guy. We got to kick his ass, you know? So
Yeah.
like, and I was a
Right.
wrestler. So like my wrestling gets me a long way in
Yes.
jujitsu.
Yes.
It's like a really good foundation. The problem is when I get on my back, I'm like, I'm so uncomfortable there, from
Oh,
being a
that's what
wrestler.
makes jujitsu jujitsu.
Yeah. I get to my back and I'm like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable. I want out of here
Yep.
bad,
Yep.
instead of like relaxing and just being like, I'm in actually a really good position here,
Yeah.
But it was starting to pick up and everything. But, it's great because was it one of those things? I just wanted to know, because I know that a lot of great businesses are started out of necessity. Were you having trouble finding gis to fit? Cause you're a big guy. Like, was it hard to find a gi that fit you? So you're like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own.
It wasn't necessarily that. It was, I had, when I was competing, I remember in 2006, I was out at the World Championships in Long Beach, and it was my first big competition. I was in I guess my mid 20s at that point. Um, and the way the tournament was run, you do your match, and then you go sit in the bullpen, and then you do your match and go sit in the bullpen. And of course, I'm a big guy and I sweat a lot.
Yep.
And I remember after I won my first match and I went and sat in the bullpen, and I sat there for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I started to get really cold and my muscles started to tighten up. And it's because the gi was 100% cotton. It was 100% cotton gi. So there was no performance technical fibers in this thing. And it got me thinking, why is this 100% cotton? And now I'm literally freezing, and it's hard to get warmed up again. To warm your body up, how the old saying, like in the military, like cotton kills, right? Because if you get wet with cotton, you're wet and cold. And so I had this idea of changing the fiber makeup. And as I started to do research, there was no other companies that were making anything but what they had been making for 100 years. So it's like this thing it'd be like you playing football with a leather helmet in
Yeah.
modern day, right? Like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's going to be a lot more CTE with a leather helmet. Well, with jujitsu, like this gi hadn't been changed. There was these trash bag style pants that you would cinch up, and these big cotton heavyweight. And as I started researching, I was like, discovered that these gis were based off of upholstery fabric. I was like, okay, so we're wearing cotton upholstery fabric. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And so, as a designer, an artist, and just somebody who was really into product, I decided I would try and change the jujitsu gi, the uniform, and I started looking for manufacturing in the U.S. I couldn't find it, and I called around and I couldn't find it, and so I did what everybody else did because manufacturing was dead. I actually started importing the gis when we first started for the first year, and as the story goes, I'd started importing the gis. I was trying to change it, but it was slow and arduous. So I couldn't really get all of the I couldn't really get everything I wanted done, and I didn't share everything. Also with my manufacturer, this guy out of Pakistan. I just didn't trust the conversations, and so I shared a little bit of my intellectual property with him. Well, I ended up winning the World Pro, which is for gi. It would be the equivalent of like the 80cc trials for no gi, right? So I
Yeah.
ended up winning the World Pro trials for gi in the brown and black belt division in 2012. And all the winners, from all the different countries, they get sent to Abu Dhabi for 10 days to compete for, for the whatever, the 50 grand or whatever it is. And I was a brown belt. But I had won the black belt division because at that time brown and black belts got stuck together. And so I was getting ready. I was in the open weight division, and I had made my way miraculously to the final 8 in the world. And you could say, oh wow, you must be really good at jiu-jitsu. And I would say, well, the seating was pretty bad. Like I didn't like the way the brackets broke out, like regardless, I ended up making it to the final 8, and I was going to fight or grapple Shanji Hibero. He was a 7-time world champion. And so I'm sitting in the bullpen, and I have this Origin gi on, that I had designed, my brand. And another person I saw as I was stretching out, they were walking by, and I noticed immediately they were wearing my gi. And I was filled with a great sense of pride. I was like, man, this is badass. This person, I think, was from Poland. And I was like, yeah, this is cool. I'm getting ready to fight the 7-time world champ. I got nothing to lose. I've already lost everything in business and life. Like I got nothing to lose. I'm gonna go out here and get it done. And as she walked by, there was a different logo on the back. And I knew that my
Wow.
manufacturer had been ripping me off and selling my intellectual property into other brands in
Wow.
other countries.
Oh my good. I bet that pissed you off so bad.
Yeah, I was pretty upset. I actually didn't even want to compete at that point. I wanted to get home immediately
And fix
and
the problem.
yeah, and fix the problem. And I ended up competing, and actually I competed decently. I competed decently. Shanji caught me with 30 seconds left. I was beating him until the final 30 seconds, and um, it was funny because on my flight home, I made a few life-changing decisions. Number one, um, I was going to stop competing. Number two, I was going to call my manufacturer Ali and call him out. And when I landed, I did. I called him out and I said, "This is absolute bullshit. You're selling my designs in to other brands." He's like, "Yep, I am. Business is business. Like, you can't do anything about it." And number three, I decided I was going to build a factory. And I didn't have any capital. I just had a singleness of purpose and a bit of a crime of passion, and just cut down a bunch of trees in the woods behind my house and had a bunch of eastern white pines sawn into big old timbers. And my friends and I and family, we raised this timber frame factory. Didn't have the money to pay for it, but I told the people who milled the wood and poured the concrete I'd pay them in cash for a better deal. And I put on a jujitsu immersion camp. There was 27 people showed up, and it was cash only. They gave me the cash. I went and I handed the cash over for the wood and the concrete. We found 2 old L bean sewing machines, headed for the scrap pile, and started up a generator and started sewing stuff. And
Holy sh-
it was the only bit of freedom I could find. Um, in jiu-jitsu you have, and I'm writing a book right now about all of this stuff. But in the book I say there's in jiu-jitsu there's 2-on-1. You never want to let go, right? You want to have 4 points of contact, but with your hands, whether it's a sleeve or a collar or 2 sleeves, whatever it is, you never want to let 2 things go. So if you're going to go from sleeve to sleeve, it's 2-on-1, it's one, and then it's 2-on-1. And in manufacturing or business, we would call it vine to vine. So you never let go of one thing before you have another thing established. And so I had to keep this relationship going with Ali in Pakistan. Even though I wanted to say so many things to him, I had to keep it going while we built the factory.
yeah.
And so that's what I did. Um, and that was really the beginning of my long and arduous journey, to launching Origin, then launching a nutritional company, and then becoming the CEO of the founder and CEO of these 2 brands. Yeah. So like, I guess when you come from a similar place to where I came from, and you've had similar experiences and you've already lost it all, when you get up every day, you're not necessarily running towards anything. You're kind of the running from the unknown into the unknown.
Yeah.
you know, that's hard to catch when somebody has that amount of drive and resolve. Um, so we are building America's next big brand, and nobody will follow us where we're going because I will
Nobody.
take you so deep, so deep. Yeah.
Well, nobody will do it because it's
No.
not, it's, I mean, I see, I'm not going to name any companies, but I see other companies that are making, especially like outdoor gear that they're trying to make it in America and they just can't, they can't keep up. It's not, I don't even know if it's that they can, it's that they won't. They're not well. It takes sacrifice. You know what I mean? To do anything great takes sacrifice, and especially when you're doing something different. And
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about when did you finally, when did you make enough money to where you and within the company of origin to like build that up to, make it so you're not like underwater, you're not like drowning. Is it still that way? Does it still feel that way? Like you're still running from something, you're still chasing, or does it feel like you've got it like kind of figured out?
No, man. Every day I get up, my ass is on fire, and it's like every day is the first day. Every day I feel like a startup where you got to get up and rip people's faces off. Um, I will celebrate. I will celebrate our first year of making a million pairs of jeans a year for Origin. That's like one of these things I put out there as like, I don't have a revenue goal target. I want to have this many employees. Like I want to have this much profit. When we're able to make a million pairs of jeans a year in a single year, we've done something pretty special. We have reshored the most iconic thing that was ever made in America, denim blue jeans, the thing that built America, denim blue jeans. Right now, we're at about 100,000, 150,000 units a year. So over the next 3 years, I would like to get there. And, you know, yeah, I mean, I think and there's two different strategies, right? For Origin and Jocko Fuel. They're two totally different businesses, two totally different teams and supply chains and everything. But I have been able to expedite my entrepreneurial journey by learning from being part of growing these two businesses and seeing them and being able to like apply tactics to each. Like I'll be over here doing this and then I'll bring it over, and I'll see this over here and I'll bring it over. I'll see a mistake we made over here and be like, I'm about to see this mistake being made here, let's not do that, and vice versa. So that's been a blessing. Plus it's fit my ADHD personality pretty well.
Yeah. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compliments. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. So what made you think, you know what? I'm already overwhelmed with this, with Origin. I'm going to start a supplement company too. Like,
Yeah.
which is a super competitive space, So you've decided to pick the probably two most competitive spaces there are.
Yeah, they are the two. Yeah, I mean, naivety is a superpower, I guess. I was too stupid to know I shouldn't be doing it, but the way it went down, and this is before I met Jocko and before Jocko dumped gasoline on this thing. And we can talk about that too. We met in 2017. The I guess I had a friend who was also in the jujitsu business, but he had a little nutritional company. And one day we decided we were compare databases of customers. And when we compared the databases, and we were a small company, we were doing maybe like $300,000 a year, right, in revenue. And he was maybe doing like $100,000 a year in revenue. So just two very small main companies. He lives an hour and a half away from me, Bill. And we compared these databases, and it was like 50% of the customers were the same person.
Wow.
And and then he shared his margins with me, and I didn't even know what the word margin meant. but back then it was like, so how much money are you making? And he's like, well, for, my cost is this and I make this, and very two young, naive entrepreneurs. I said, well, it sounds pretty good. I said, like, let me find a way to buy this thing from you if you're interested in selling it. And he's like, yeah, I'd be interested. I said, then I can have like a higher margin product that'll help fund like the lower margin manufacturing thing, because we're still figuring out manufacturing. It was very hard. But if the customer is buying geese from me and nutritional products from you, wouldn't it make sense they bought it all from one source? And so he agreed to do that. And that's why and how we got into the nutritional. It was literally for jiu-jitsu to start.
Did you buy it from him, or did you guys just combine forces?
No, I bought it from him.
And do you think he regrets selling it?
I've never asked him. I've emailed, or I've Facebook messaged him a couple times since then, but I haven't seen him since then. But I guess statute of limitations is up. I gave him a pile of cash, and he gave me the vendors that were making his product, and handed over the formulas and everything. So we kind of just bought like the assets or whatever, and then we changed his little nutritional company to Origin. And they were just a tiny little thing.
So you were selling you were selling jeans and gis, and
back then it was only gis.
So you're selling gis and supplements.
Yeah.
And what were the supplements? Just like a pre-workout and a protein, or?
So this product, our first product with Jocko, this was Ultra Joint. It was Origin Ultra Joint, and then we ended up rebranding it as Jocko Fuel. So we started with a joint product, a curl product. We had greens and reds. We had this product we called, like, what's it, Flow? It was like a jiu-jitsu pre-workout. So it wasn't like a pre-workout for lifting weights. It was for like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Like not all. I don't even remember else what we have. Yeah, just maybe 7 or 8 different products we were selling to jiu-jitsu guys. It was like 5 packages a day. It was like nothing major. It was just this little thing, but
it had scalable margins. It's scalable.
Yeah. And I didn't know where it was going to go ultimately. Like I said, I didn't have a business plan, I didn't have revenue goals. I just had this idea of that I wanted to be able to make stuff in America. And I wanted to own my destiny. I wanted to own my future. I wanted to be in control of the way that looked, because in my past life, I hadn't been in control of the way that looked. So it was all kind of a means to an end.
So when did Jocko come on board with this? How long were you kind of like running that company before Jocko came?
So Origin started in 2011. We started building the factory in 2012. I told the world through YouTube, we built a factory in the woods of Maine in 2013. We found the old loom. We rescued an old loom in Lewiston, Maine, and brought it back to life in 2014. In 2015, we were full production on making jiu-jitsu gis and pants, and there's a lot of ebbs and flows leading up to that point. In 2016, we started the nutritional company. In 2017, Jocko put out a Facebook message saying he's been trying to get a hold of this crazy guy up in the woods of Maine who's building jiu-jitsu gis. He wants to help, and he tried to reach out on a few different occasions, and either I didn't respond, or I'm not exactly sure what happened. And so somebody got a hold of me who found my phone number online, because it was just blasted out there for customer service. Called my phone number, my cell phone, and said, hey, this guy's trying to get a hold of you. His name's Jocko. And I was like, yeah, I don't know who that is. And they're like, well, he's got a podcast. And I was like, what's a podcast? And they're like, well, it's kind of like an independent like news. And I was like, okay. And they're like, and he's a former Navy SEAL commander. I said, okay. And he trains jiu-jitsu. And I was like, okay. And they're like, well, he's trying to get a hold of you to talk to you about jiu-jitsu and in business. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, we can talk. And so when Jocko and I got on the phone for the first time on a Zoom call, or I think it was Zoom back, or Skype or Zoom back then, we ended up talking for 4 hours. And he got off the phone, and his wife Helen said to him, "Geez, Jocko, it sounded like you were talking to yourself." So we started talking in 2017. In Origin at that point, in our little nutritional company, it was really, even though there was 7 years of work, nobody knew, right? Like 3 people knew. Yeah, I mean, obviously more than 3 people, but in compared to where we are now, 7 years of work, losing it all. I mean, when you talk about the first part of my life, it would have been at that point maybe 15 years of being a business, but 7 years of work on Origin, in this little nutritional company, and we were probably doing, I don't know, million three a year in revenue, 1.5 million. I don't even think we're at $2 million in revenue yet. 12 employees. The shipping geese and nutritional supplements, and we had just moved out of the woods into a building in our downtown, a 20,000 square foot facility we were going to turn into our next phase of business in a factory. And it was right along that time that I talked with Jocko, and we met in Portland, Maine, over a steak and a handshake. And he said, "Hey, listen, I love what you're doing. I want to get involved. I loved America. I love America. And I've got a platform. I can tell the world, what's going on here in Maine." And he didn't like share numbers with me. He didn't share downloads with me. It was more of just like a conversation, walking around Portland, Maine for a couple of hours talking, and our wives behind us talking. And I just liked him. We clicked. And I remember when we were walking through Portland, and I was like, we also have this nutritional company. I knew he was sponsored by On It at the time, and he was getting paid by them too for sponsorship. And I remember saying to him, the nutritional business is a high margin business. It's tiny for us, but it's high margin. I said, and the manufacturing is low margin. It's hard to manufacture. And like, there's so much we need to do to bring manufacturing back. I said, in an effort to grow manufacturing and be our own bank, I said, we've got to build this nutritional thing. If we don't, eventually we'll be in a position where we either have to go in debt with a bank or get private equity or, venture capital, or sell. Like, we're going to have to, and that isn't the intent of Origin, is to always stay private, to never go public, to never get sold out, because that's what happened to American business. Corporate raiders came in and stripped the mills clean and sent all the shit overseas, the knowledge and the machines. And that's where all of our dollars go to these days. So I remember saying to Jocko, like, I'll go all in with you on this, if you're willing to come on board also with the nutritional company, and we do the whole thing together. We don't get distracted. We just do these 2 things, and we do them really good. And he thought through it, and he said, "Yeah, I'm in. Like, let's go." I said, "Dude, it's gonna be the perfect storm, man. Like, it's gonna be the perfect storm. We're gonna build an empire." And so Jocko, his role was to go and like tell the world, and my role is what it always has been, to organize and build the business and the product roadmaps and the kind of all the behind the scenes stuff. Like, you build the businesses, I'll tell the world. And so that's what we've been doing since 2017. So she's now another 8 years, I guess, right? Yeah, another 8 years. So it was 7 or 8 years up until that point, and now we've been in business longer than I was, alone. So,
all right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground bison, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. As Origin grows, you could just sell out and be like, you know what, fine, we'll just start pulling. Nobody would know.
I get
As
offers
long
all
as
the
you're
time.
making, as long as you're like putting it together here, you could still get your fabrics from somewhere else if you wanted.
100%.
You could call it American made, but the fabrics are from somewhere else and nobody would know.
That's what sucks about the word American made is, I mean, you have, yeah, I won't call out any brands, but like someone's making a boot and the whole boot upper is sewn in a different, let's just use the Dominican, for instance. It's sewn in the Dominican, the whole thing, or, South America somewhere. And it comes to the US. That's the hardest part of the boot. Like that upper, like that sewn components and eyelets and all the thick leather, and you're sculpting a foot, right? A product. That's the hardest part. It comes to America and they put a bottom on it, and now it says made in America. Like, come on, you stripped $50 of labor out of that thing, of dollars into Americans' pockets, into the American supply chain, into the American economy. You stripped it out. And so I don't even like to use the word made in America. I use the word built by freedom, which we trademarked, which is, if it carries a built by freedom mark, that every part of it came from American soil. And if there is a component that simply isn't made in America anymore, and we can't source it and we can't find the machinery to make it, we'll call it out. Like we had this one piece of a product that we literally looked everywhere in the US. Finally, a company is starting to make this component for us. They bought the machinery and tooled up to make it for us. So yeah, it's really being like, I don't know, the word isn't relentless, but setting a like this impossible mission, like making a statement so bold that the only way out is forward, and nobody is going to want to go there because it's not a good way to build a business. It's not.
Yeah. It's like, you always say you drag them to the deep end.
Yeah.
You're dragging the competition into the deep end, and
Yes.
and nobody's willing to do it because the risk is so high. And it's funny because it's almost like, it fits perfect with like a guy like Jocko, like a SEAL, right? Because you could easily just go ring that bell and just get your shit from another country.
Yeah.
Right. You could easily ring that bell, but to stay on course and to keep pushing and stick to your values and do what's right in your mind, that's the hard part. And that's where the sacrifice comes.
Yeah. And that's all that matters to me. I mean, it's kind of what you leave behind. You can't take anything with you, like it's all going to be reclaimed by nature, time, or somebody else. And so, as far as like what you leave is what you've done and the impact you've had. And it may sound cliche, but it is true for me. And yeah, and I still don't have like a goal. It's not outside of like, I want to eat all the denim market share in America. That's a goal.
Yeah.
But like a revenue number, or like it's not a goal. Employ as many people as we can. Rehabilitate as many people as we can. Re-inspire the middle class again. Remind people, why we had such a strong American middle class, and that factories were the melting pot where we came together and unified around a common goal and values, and just remind people like why we exist. I think that's really important for the next phase of our country. I feel like if we lose that, if we just become a service-based nation of consumers or consuming, I think you end up stripping the soul out of the, this exercise, this 250-year-old thing we call the American dream.
I'm in the outdoor space a lot, and I see all the different companies in the outdoor space, which is super competitive because it's hard to get somebody, to switch camouflage that they like to wear, and try something new. It's really, especially when they're, it costs money. You know what I mean? These guys are, and then they'll go spend $1,000 on an outfit from Sitka. Or I'd hate to throw companies under the bus here, but like, there's Sitka and Kuyu. Those are like the two big ones, right? And they'll go spend all this money on on that outfit and it'll rip. Like it's not made in America. It's just not, and there's a difference. It's always been that way. Whenever there's something that's made in America, literally legitimately made in America, built in America, it's always tougher and it always lasts.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is and it's more expensive. But it's that old saying, when you buy furniture for your house, do I want to buy 5 couches from IKEA, or do I want to just buy one really nice one that's going to last?
Exactly.
And that's where people have to come to terms with that, and really, but it's hard because they're like, I don't know if this product's going to fit me. I don't know if it's what it's like, so what was that like moving into the outdoors? Because I talked to Kip about it. I love Kip. So I talked to him about it, and he's like, man, it's just tough.
It's freaking hard, dude.
He did it with Under Armour, did the outdoor space with Under Armour, and they did really well.
We took I'm like totally probably too open of a book and too transparent at times, but like Origin took a beating this year, not on revenue, not on like the growth of our company. We took a beating on trying to do too much too soon, and like trying to be like a big company mindset with lead times and investment in textiles and innovation. And like, we tried to do too much. We were exposed, like just before Black Friday, we were exposed about $20 million, 13 million in inventory, and like another 7 million tapped into our line of credit. So like the most exposed I've ever been with Origin. Origin has always been profitable. We've always like ran a profitable business. And this is part of the reason I stepped away, as CEO from Jocko Fuel too, because I had decentralized to such a point with an Origin and hired people to help me run the company. And they defaulted to what they knew was like big supply chains, like long lead times, like big product calendars and product roadmaps. And, you just not lean, the epitome, like not lean. It wasn't lean. Origin is built on jiu-jitsu, timing, leverage, distance, pressure. Like that's how we built this company. And all of a sudden we started doing the opposite. And I started to recognize this in like July and August of this year. And that's when I started looking for a CEO for Jocko Fuel, but I couldn't unwind what had been set in motion because the purchase orders had been committed and the dollars had been committed and the down payments had been made. And so it's like, a tsunami is coming, right? It's coming, but it's not going to be here for another 4 months. And so I had to make a lot of changes. I had to cut down to the bone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And strip cost out of the company. And then we had to go like deep discounting to get our dollars back, especially in hunt. So we ended up making all this tremendous, really expensive hunt product, and then we just selling it at cost, right? So we really got
just
ourselves
to get rid of it, right? Because you just have to get rid of the inventory, right?
You can't. When we took a loss on a bunch of stuff, so this year we ended up losing money for the first time in company history. Regardless of our growth, we lost money, and so it's like, okay, we're not doing this again. I knew I had to refocus on doing one thing and one thing really great. I stripped a lot of the new product out of 25. We're leaning back to basics, the things we're good at. We're gonna improve our efficiencies in the factory level. We're gonna get leaner again, decrease days of supply, put cash back on the balance sheet. So like I had to like go and do all these initiatives. And at first, and like it'd be like, oh, Pete's back. Pete's creating chaos. Which isn't my intent. It's I see the pattern, and I'm putting the pieces together quickly, because you have to move. You have to move. You can't sit back and build out a process and a system that then you can apply. When you're in that position, you've got to move. And I think, I don't consider myself a great entrepreneur. There's like people like Steve Jobs, Phil Knight, Jim Gennard, there's like all these Chip Wilson, like all these people that have built these massive brands, like they're great entrepreneurs, but they've all been in the situation I'm in. And the ones that were able to move quickly, right? Maybe it's not the right business, the way business is supposed to work, but you got to move quick. I love when Steve Jobs came back to his company in 1997 after being gone for 12 years and stripped every product out. We're going to make one thing. We're going to make it great. That personal computer, that little colorful iMac. Remember that thing? He stripped everything else out, the fax machines, all the other bullshit he stripped out. I literally took a page out of his book for 2025. I stripped it all out. I said, denim, boots, jiu-jitsu gis, and the core essentials. 8 products is 80 to 90% of our revenue. We're going to focus on those and we're going to do it great. And we're going to go eat that damn market share that Levi's abandoned when they offshored all their product and factories and shut down 18. We're going to go eat that market share and we're going to tell America. And so that's our goal for 2025. And that reverberates through the organization. So yeah, I don't know what the original question was, but I went off on a tangent.
No, you answered it perfectly, because it was about how difficult. I mean, you have some of the biggest names repping Origin Outdoor that you can have, right? You got Joe Rogan and Cam Hanes both wearing that shit. You got John Dudley wearing that shit. Like, and that shows you that it doesn't really matter who's wearing your shit. It just matters, can you make it? Can you, it all comes down to like the nuts and bolts of it. Like, if you're not selling enough of that shit, then you don't need to, you have these huge orders that you have to fulfill. And when I say that, I'm talking about like, you buy all the, cause you have to mass produce the shit. So it's ready. Cause people don't want to wait for 6 months.
Yeah.
People want instant gratification. So whenever they decide they're going to buy something, they want that thing there in 5 business days. That's
max. Right. Exactly.
You know,
and I actually have to, I have to unwind a lot of things in hunting in 2025. We're going to plan down and only the core essentials, so that we can apply this factory to consumer mindset. Basically, like anything with long lead times, I took out for 2025.
So what kind of thing? Because I don't know what I don't know, but what kind of things take long, like our long lead times? Like
acid printing fabric.
Okay.
You know, like you got to weave all the fabric, because a lot of the remaining mills in America are reliant on military business. They have commitments, and so you have to get plugged in to their schedule, right? So you may be like 3 or 4 months to weave the fabric and then another couple months to acid print the fabric before you ever see it, to inspect it, to make sure it's a first quality. And so you're exposed cash for 6 months before you even touch the fabric. Then you've got to put the labor into making the goods, right? Of course. And then you've got to sell the goods, hopefully at some type of a meaningful margin. That didn't happen this year, right? So I'm just like, okay, what can we do in each category, knowing we're going to put 80% of our attention on jiu-jitsu, denim, boots, core essentials, hoodies, t-shirts, all like that core Origin Americana. And we had to figure out, if you have $1 to spend, where do we spend it? So yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. I had to unwind some, not to get into too much detail, but it's imperfect. And anytime things are imperfect and they affect people, whether it's in the organization or outside the organization, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. But it's a moment in time. And that's what I try to tell people in my company and friends that have supported the brand, who, even through in a financial way, that, hey man, I've got to unwind some stuff and we need to change the relationship for the time being. It's a moment in time. Hope you stay with us. If not, totally understand, but I got to go fix some things right now. And so that's the mode I'm in with Origin now, with my full-time focus. We have enough awareness to be one of the biggest companies in America, if not the world.
I agree.
Our newsletter list is over 1 million people. It's crazy. It's just, we got to be able to build the product, and the right product, and get it to the consumer at the right time. So I don't need to be, because I have a 100-year plan, right? And we're literally the first decade into that 100-year plan. We just started the second decade. Like 2013, we built the factory. 2023, 2024, I told my team last week, is a freaking mulligan. It's a mulligan. Learn from it. And I never want to talk about it again. 2025 starts the second decade of opportunity. So in my 100-year plan, we're like, we're in the second phase. And I just got to make sure it gets organized correctly for the next 10 years, because I like to think in 10-year chunks.
Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food grade ingredients for industry classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something, American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer, Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion, Brian Blaney, rising country star, Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store locator, purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. Do you think that maybe, I'm just spitballing this, do you think that removing the outdoor side of Origin would be beneficial? I think that it would. Because everything it's so competitive, and what you guys do, you guys are a lifestyle brand.
We are.
Origin, it's a lifestyle. So when I go to Origin and I get on the website, I'm going to get a pair of jeans. Oh shit, I like this hoodie too. I'm going to grab this hoodie.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
like, oh shit, these boots are so dope. All right, now I got boots, a jeans, and a hoodie in there, right?
Yes.
That's what you're selling. That's the gear you're selling. You're like, dude, these are perfect for me to fucking wear. I could wear these out to work, or I could wear them to a nice restaurant. It's like, They're perfect. I have a pair of them and I wear them all the time because they're just like perfect, the perfect fit. They got the good stretch. They're tough. I don't have to worry about ripping them, and they're just perfect. Like, especially if I'm like on a horse, or if I'm, fucking around in the backyard or shooting my bow, like whatever I'm doing, I can wear them and I'm comfortable. And
you can hunt in them if you want.
And you can hunt in them if you really want to.
Yeah.
And that's where I was, because I saw you guys pushing out all these outdoor products. And I was just like, man, it felt to me like that's not what they're about. Like that's not what the company's about. Like the company's about it's the base is jujitsu, right? And then it's really cool to be able to make something like that. But I feel like the outdoor side comes whenever you've hit like look at how Under Armour did it, right? They built this huge brand and then they did it. And then they still don't love the margins there, because it's a super competitive market. You can get somebody to go buy a new pair of jeans every year.
Yes, exactly.
You can get them to buy 4 or 5 pairs of jeans, but they're not going to buy 4 or 5 of those, like those cooling tops that you guys make. Those are badass.
Yeah,
but
they're great.
They're unbelievable. I have one. I was like, these are fucking unbelievable. It's like you don't sweat. It's great. And it keeps you cool, but you don't get warm. It's just great, but they don't make, you can't get somebody to buy 5 of those.
That's right.
Right.
Exactly.
But you can get somebody to buy 5 different hoodies, and you can get somebody to buy 2 pairs of boots and 3 pairs of jeans. Like that's scalable.
Yeah, and it is, and that, like, when you think about menswear, that is more of our focus, is like, tough, durable, overbuilt menswear, right? The idea with hunting was to prove that we could build technical apparel, and that was the platform to do it. Like, we can build a technical outerwear, technical insulation, rainwear. It can be built in America. It was more of to prove a point that it could be done, because everybody said it couldn't be done. Right. Just like when we first started, like, oh, you can't build jujitsu gis in America. Okay, watch us. So it was a little bit of just proving the point that it could be done. But Origin isn't like we're not like a hunting brand. We're not known as a hunting brand. And so like, okay, we proved it can be done. We developed a lot of textiles that we pull into our normal everyday offering. But as far as like going and building this huge hunting division, like it's not who we are right now. And maybe down the road it is, but to your point, the customer's coming to us to buy jujitsu gear, to buy badass overbuilt jeans, boots, like the core essentials, the basics that you need to live your life. And, if somebody wants to pick up a pair of camo pants or shorts or a camouflage hoodie or something, like we should have that offering too, more as camo as a color, as a weapon than full multi-layer, tons of camouflage, and Highland prints and woodland prints. I think next year we're only going to do like a woodland Eastern style print anyways.
Yeah. That green Raptor. I mean, that's like the origin camo.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
That's
that is the origin. That's your camo that's patented, right?
Yep.
So that's your guys' camo. I wouldn't move away from that. Like you don't need
exactly.
to.
Yeah. Yep. No, so we're going to keep that. But as far as trying to like go eat market share in hunting, really our focus is eating market share in like the core things like denim, boots, the core essentials.
The lifestyle. It's the lifestyle
side. Exactly.
The stuff that, because let's be honest, like dudes aren't walking around wearing camo. Like, like I'm not going to wear my camo to lunch.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless I'm actually hunting and I'm going to have lunch, in the middle of the hunt. So that's, to me, I think what your bread and butter, and I don't know what I don't know, but I just know from the outside looking in and being a fan of the brand that like, I would love to see like the lifestyle brand origin, continue. And I don't think the outdoor space, I just don't think I understand you wanting to prove a point.
Yeah.
And I think the point was made and it was like, oh, it can be done,
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like
through the point.
And like you said, you think you got over your skis a little bit, it's like we tried to grow it too fast instead of sticking with the bread and butter, growing that. And then this can be like a side piece.
That's right. Exactly.
That comes off of that, it shouldn't be because what happens is to grow an outdoor brand, you got to start paying ambassadors and you got to have all this, and that's when it gets expensive because a lot of times these ambassadors just don't move the needle.
Yeah, no, they really don't. It's crazy. Like people think, oh, I'm going to have somebody that got, whatever, 500,000 followers or 5 million followers or whatever. There's not a direct impact. And for anybody listening to this, that's, young in their entrepreneurial journey and they have a direct consumer, platform model. That's how you build awareness, right? You build awareness. There's an awareness of the brand. And I break it up into three things: mind share, soul share, and market share. I said, so what can awareness do? It can help win a share of people's minds. So you are aware that this brand exists and you're aware of maybe some of the products they sell. Soul share, is like, okay, they think about me. They consider me when in their purchase intent. And so I'm part of their consideration set because I have convinced them that what we're doing, our mission, our purpose is meaningful and it should touch them in a way to have them consider us. So we win a share of their mind and soul. And then the third thing is you got to win their market share. And you win that market share, it could be through price, it could in promotion, it could be through product innovation, features and details. There's a lot of ways to win market share, but you really need all three in this day and age. It's building a brand like the ones that I've been fortunate enough to been part of is it's not a commodity. It's not commoditized like back in the day when we were growing up in the 80s or 90s when, you had mass media and big brands promoting their products and there was only like a couple of options. Now the phone is mass media and there's so many people on a minute to minute basis vying for your attention and your dollars. And so the way I look at it is, well, I need to win mind share and soul share. And if I can win those two things, I'll always have them connected to the brand. And eventually market share is just a matter of timing. I will get that. I'll get that market share some point in time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm trying to right now I'm doing a podcast, and I film all my hunts, and, I'm growing a YouTube channel, growing a Spotify channel, growing, just doing all that grow. It's so different from football for me, but I'm like learning on the fly, and I'm only like 3 years in, and it's really like, I'm finally seeing things click, and I'm like, oh, okay. This is how it works. And something that it really stuck out to me was I was listening to a Theo Von podcast with Mr. Beast.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Beast was saying, if you drive down the street and you see a cow, you'll be like, oh, there's a cow. And you just keep, a cow's a cow. But if you see a purple cow, you're going to stop and look twice at that purple cow and be like, why is that cow purple? Oh, it's a purple cow. And you want to know more about it, right? And he's like, that's what you have to do. That's what social media is like. And that's what YouTube is like. What it makes you different from everybody else, right? So when you do like your social media pushes and you're trying to sell stuff on Instagram, when people roll up there has to be something that jumps to them. You can't just be a picture of some jeans, because they're like, oh, their attention span is so, I mean, they say it used to be like 6 to 10 seconds. I think it's like you get 1 to 2 seconds to catch their attention.
Yeah.
Or they're just going to go, it's too easy to scroll. So how do I get them to click and go to the website and then actually make a purchase? And they've made it so easy to make purchases now. You just Apple Pay everything,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You can get out of control on the internet. Christmas time is out of control in my house. I know that, because it's like, oh, my 5-year-old needs this and that. It's like, it's so silly, but that's how you get people's attention, is like that purple cow. Yep. Put that purple cow out there. And that's where, I think when it came to the outdoor stuff, I was like, all they need is Joe Rogan loves this stuff. That's all you need. You don't need anybody else. He'd probably do it for free.
Joe's just a fan of the brand. Like he started with buying the stuff from us and then just started talking about it. And I remember like Jocko texted me one day. He's like, did Joe buy something from Origin? I was like, well, I don't know. This was years ago. And I went and looked, and I found, Joseph Rogan, sure enough, yeah. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg. He's like, sure enough, Mark Zuckerberg, bought stuff. So like, I don't pay Joe to talk about Origin. He loves America, and he loves what we're all about. And he just supports us because, he wants America to win. And he knows that, manufacturing and what we're doing is kind of a core value of freedom, and believes it should come back too. So I've tried to align myself with people like that. Like if you ever see like Heavy D posting with Origin, I don't pay him to do that. Or like the Bearded Butchers, they wear the stuff because like they're totally aligned with what we're doing. And I think that's more important to them, than somebody giving them a bunch of money to sell a pair of jeans. They would rather wear jeans and t-shirts and hoodies and boots built by freedom. Yeah. Because they're staying true to who they are. So for me, that's like the purple cow, is that we are unwavering and unapologetic in what we're doing, and people like that recognize it. And then other people see it. So like they're paying attention. Like all the people you think would pay attention last are actually paying attention first. All those people with big followings, like they're paying attention, and they have influence, maybe not influence on somebody like converting somebody, but influence on building awareness that this is an option and this is available and this is why they exist and why you should support them. So yeah, it's an interesting analogy, the purple cow.
Yeah, that just stuck out. There's things in like, you probably had coaches that would say things that always stuck up.
Yeah, I've had some coaches that have said some pretty off-color things back in the early 90s.
And it just like sticks with you, and you're like, that makes sense to me. It doesn't. You say that to some of these things you say to a normal person, and they're like, you shouldn't say that in public, like when I did Joe's show, something that always stuck out to me when I had a coach once tell me, if you play pussy, you're going to get fucked. Yeah. And that's how any physical sport is. That's the way it goes. And I said that on Joe Rogan, and people were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You can't say that. And I'm like, I mean, I just did. And it works. But then I had another coach that told me one time, don't sacrifice what you want the most for what you want right now. And that fits in so many spots in my life, you know, and I say it to my kids I have all these one-liners from coaches that I say to my kids all the time, and they're just like, what, you know, whatever, dude. Like, I'm tired of hearing it, but you know, you're proof to that right now. Like, you're not going to sacrifice what you want most for, you want to grow the company quick, right? You want to grow it, and you want it to be you want to sell 1 million pairs of jeans. But the only way to do that is to not sacrifice what you want the most. And that's what you want most, is to stay true to your core values.
That's right.
You know,
exactly.
and that's, you know, I commend you on that, man. And I really appreciate you coming on here and telling your story. And, you know, I hope I can have you on here again when you sell Jocko for $1 billion and Origin's just pumping out 2 million pairs of jeans and 500,000 pairs of boots a year. I just, you know, I want to see you guys go to the moon, man. Cause I'm a big fan of the brand and big fan of you as a human. So
I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. Great conversation. I'd love to come on again anytime and share more and just keep rapping about it. And we got to get together in person sometime and train some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Do a little rolling. Let's get on the mat.
Yeah. That'd be fun.
That'd be a good time, man. Maybe next time we'll do it in person. We'll just come out here. Maybe I'll come out there. You come out here.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, cool, brother. I appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolf_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolf.com.